the thing that I'm doing is not trying to do a magic trick and not trying to impress people with something. I'm trying to love people, because I know when people give me their top 10 movies, they're giving me their heart. And so to be a good steward over that heart and know that I can love that heart in a big way by showing how their movies like affirm how God sees them, then to me, that's where I feel really gifted.
Collaboration Conversation is brought to you by Project Brickworks, the new ministry dedicated to equipping Christians to use their talents and gifts to bring others into a relationship with King Jesus. Project Brickworks is a crowd-funded nonprofit ministry made possible by generous folks like you, and we are so very grateful. We created the Collaboration Conversation as a way for Christians to share about their upcoming projects and how they are using the gifts and talents that God has given them. Today, we are so excited to have Bryan Coley with us. He is the founder, creator, operator, runner, all of the things for the nonprofit REEL Experiences based in Atlanta, Georgia. And we are so excited to have him here with us. Bryan, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, it's good to talk to you today. I'm headed to the beach after this, so there's going to be nothing but pleasure in my voice right now.
I'm so excited for you, and I'm a little bit jealous.
Yes. Well, we also have to note that you by far have the best set.
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
Yeah, nicely done.
Yeah, it's not virtual either. I mean, this is like real wood. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
As movie lovers, I love that collage behind you. It's so cool.
Yeah. Well, so awesome. How are you? How's life in Georgia?
Yeah, things are good. You know, we went through this COVID thing with just a mindset of reimagination. So everything we did this past year has just been really wonderful. It's been a really blessing to know that what we were kind of thinking about that we would never have done, actually COVID kind of forced us into doing. And now most of our experiences that we do at REEL Experiences are all virtual. And we've been able to reach people that we weren't reaching before, like people in Kenya and people in Costa Rica and Brazil. You know, it's just been able to expand the reach of what we do.
Oh my gosh.
Wow, that's awesome.
You know, that's actually kind of a theme that we have heard over the last few interviews that we've done. It's just that God has really used this time in ways that we obviously, last March could have never imagined. You hear shutdown, lockdown. You don't go to these thoughts of, well, maybe I'll be able to reach people I've never reached before. And God is just so incredible. And I just think that's a theme that we've heard lately, is that God has really been blessing this time for a lot of people. It's a really tough time for a lot of people, but to find the blessing and the silver lining and to realize where God is blessing you, and that is really cool.
That's awesome. Well, for our listeners who might not know you, tell us a little bit about you and your family and your current endeavors.
Yeah, so I guess my story starts probably back at NYU Film School. Graduated there, worked at Turner Broadcasting for about 12 years. I married my wife in 1994. Yeah, I better get that one right. And we have two children. I have a son who's 21, who's kind of following in my footsteps, doing documentary film work right now. And then my daughter is 17, and she's just kind of going to be doing the senior year coming up. So it's just been a really wonderful time. And since the time I left Turner Broadcasting, I started working with in the theater world first, working with playwrights, and then we moved over to working with screenwriters. And then I made a movie, and then all of a sudden I took this left turn, and I was in the edit suite for about a year, making or editing, as you guys know how long it takes to edit a movie, editing my first feature film. Had not seen anything but a computer for a year, which is sort of like COVID. Yeah. But it was way before COVID. And so I was trying some of the methods that I was using with writers to help them find their voice, in which we would ask them what moved them. Because as you guys know, oftentimes our challenge with writers who are Christians is authenticity. And so we wanted them to write something extremely authentic. And the only, the script that only they could write, that they would bleed doing it. And so we would like, what moves you? And quickly that became their favorite movies. And so we used to mine their favorite movies as a means of finding what themes came out of their movies, what was possibly the script that they should be writing. So fast forward, when I'm in the edit suite, I decided to try those methods with a small group at my church, and it just blew up. People were literally changing their lives based on the insights they were finding in their favorite movies. And so it was like an oil well just spewing out. I was just trying, 20 years of working in story. I was like, let's try using, looking at your movies through the lens of character and desire and dilemma and, happily ever after. Let's just any way we could look at it. And then we were looking at different audiences with married people seeing each other better through their movies and veterans coming back from war. And for the last about 2.5 years, we've been in corporate America working with team development, working with some of the really big names here in Atlanta, Coke and Home Depot and Mercedes-Benz and Chick-fil-A Support Center. And the bottom line is that we found this big secret, which is that hidden within your top 10 movies is your story. And God has kind of placed it there. And I guess the things that move us is God moving us to tell us a little bit about who we are. And so all we do is just give people eyes to see that. And probably the biggest blessing that we get is for them to feel seen, which in this world of disconnection, to feel seen and to kind of reconnect to your story is huge. And so it's been a left turn, no longer making movies or helping writers make movies. I'm doing this pretty much full time as what I do now.
That is incredible.
Yes. So awesome. And I've been watching, some of these steps, just like I said, we've met, I think it was 2016. And it's just so cool to see the things that have come out of this. So, yeah.
Well, and God loves making us take left turns. And so for you to have just fully embraced it and to see where he was leading you is just really cool. Well, okay. So you just mentioned this and you mentioned this, but you used to do like workshops and helping screenwriters find their voice. And that is, in 2016, we took a course with you, top 10 movies, and that was really cool. So like we got to actually experience what you do, which is actually kind of unique for our podcast.
Oh, totally.
Very often we'll have guests that we've never met before or that we've met once or twice but haven't really interacted with and been a part of what they do. And we've actually gotten to do that with you, which is really cool. And I remember we left that feeling so inspired.
Oh my gosh.
And
yes.
We love our top 10 movie lists and, we've saved them. And so I wanted to, first of all, we can share ours sometime, but I wanted to know if you would share some of your top 10.
Oh, thanks for asking. Yeah. So, some of the characters in my top 10 that I probably relate to most are Billy Beane from Moneyball, because Billy Beane is trying to reinvent baseball and he's got all these crazy methods to do it. And so I really identify with him and identify with that journey of any minute you could be working at Dick's Sporting Goods, if it all goes wrong. So, and then Maria in The Sound of Music will always be a character I really identify with. I grew up, I think I was born actually when Sound of Music came out. Like my dad and my sister, it was one of those days when your dad didn't show up at the hospital and support the wife, in the room. And so he was watching Sound of Music on repeat with my sister as I was being born. And then I ended up doing Sound of Music in summer stock and everything. But, once again, I think it was another one of those affirming movies for me in my top 10 where I saw the scene where Maria, I don't know if you remember the scene where she's telling the captain and she names all the children and says, love them, and she tells exactly the hearts of all
what
the
they
children.
Need. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when I saw that scene, I was like, that's what I feel like when I'm doing Reel. I'm trying to advocate, especially to leaders, like, here's the hearts of your people, see them through their movies. And then there's days in which I feel a little bit like Amadeus. I feel like Salieri and Amadeus, where I'm coveting all the Mozarts of the world and how they get to shine. And, that's kind of my sin side of me. It's that tragedy of Amadeus. Have movies like It's a Wonderful Life and George Bailey when I'm definitely one of those people who wants to do something big, but also wants to really develop people and build community. And then there's movies like Stranger Than Fiction or Family Man or Life is Beautiful, Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Those are some of the movies on my top 10.
Those are good.
So cool.
Well, so just a follow up real quick. Was wondering this earlier when I was looking for my top 10 little postcard that you gave us.
Yeah.
And I found it. But I was wondering if your top 10 can ever change. But you said Moneyball, and that's not that old of a movie. So it sounds to me like it is possible. You develop and you change your top 10.
A lot of people bring, a different list every time they come to Reel,
Yeah.
So it's fine. Mine, I can't seem to do it. I can't seem to knock a movie off and put a movie on. Like no movie has really hit me that strong since I put it together, but
so cool.
There's a lot of people who are like fluid as far as, their top 30 and they just can kind of move things in and out,
Yeah. So you've given us, just by example, what it is you do with these movies, but talk to us a little bit about the heart and what it is that you are providing to those big companies, I guess, about their employees, kind of a little bit about the process of that you go through with the different people that go through REEL Experiences.
Yeah. A lot of people have they get the concept, but they don't understand how we're doing it, So what we do is we have, let's say it's a team out there, we have each of the team members submit their top 10 movies through an app that we created and that helps them find and pick their movies. And then once they have that in the app, we do any number of experiences. So one are probably base level experiences called storyboard, where you find your story in your movies. And we go through 4 different lenses. So the team will rotate with different team members through 4 facilitated breakout groups that we've been doing a lot virtual. That's why we've been able to reach other people that we weren't reaching before this year. And so they'll go through like character and they'll look at the character that they resonate or like the most. And then we'll ask them different questions around that. And then they'll go through another lens of desire and another lens of conflict and then another lens of change. And each time they're rotating with different team members and getting to know them and hearing their answers. And then there's always the moment, which is kind of a secret, that at the very end, we've been talking about your movies the whole time. And then we just kind of flip it. And all the insights that we created, we have them read it back as if they're, these insights, this is who they are. This is what they want. These are the lies that comes against them. These are the truths they need to hear to change. And it just blows people's mind. They're just like, oh my gosh, like you just read my mail, and that moment is the moment of God, that's the transcendent moment where all of a sudden this person says this massive insight that's like game changing for them. And then they go, and that was from Anchorman. And to me, that only God could do that, right?
Yes,
only God could actually surprise a person so strongly by having them see these themes that come out of their movies. And it's not just like Anchorman. All of a sudden I go, yeah, but don't you see it over here with Goodfellas? And don't you see it over here with, Shawshank Redemption? And so all of a sudden there's this, their movies just come alive with their heart and with their story. Yeah. So we do that. And, the takeaway really for teams is just really that idea of, it takes probably 6 months for you to get to know somebody and start to collaborate on a team. And so we reduced that down to like 3 hours. So suddenly people are really engaged. They're really knowing each other. They know each other at a vulnerable level, So once you create that vulnerability, then, they cling to each other. And just that feeling of being seen. Like if you feel like you're seen, then you feel more engaged on that team.
Oh, yeah,
absolutely.
And then we look at different other lenses like support and innovation and empathy. And lately, probably the series that we developed that I'm most proud of is we developed a REEL listening series, which really looks at teams with people of color to allow them to express their experience through their movies. So we look at all kinds of questions around diversity and inclusion that are just opened up doors for people to see each other who, they wouldn't be able to articulate things without that movie as that buffer for them to be able to say things. So it's just been really profound.
Yeah, that's so special.
And it gives them a shared vocabulary.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So we have there's a video on our website under REEL Listening, in which this young Black woman explains how Kill Bill Volume 2 was the way she was able to really express what it feels like for her being a Black woman in corporate America. And it's just, when you watch Kill Bill Volume 2, you're just like, oh my gosh,
Oh
I
my
can never
gosh.
get that image out of my head.
Right.
And it creates that language, like you're saying, for them to be able to go, oh yeah, this is me putting that board up and you're trying to crash through that board and so forth. So
Wow. Very cool.
So you're making me rethink something. We just started a ministry called Project Brickworks during the pandemic. And, since we're a nonprofit, we have to have a board of directors. And I have on my first meeting, bring in REEL Experiences for team building. But I was thinking we couldn't do it virtually. I was thinking it would be something where you all came to us or however that works. So then it went to the next meeting, and now it's on the third meeting. We want to bring y'all in. But if you can do it virtually, we can do this more quickly than I realized.
And there is where God really opened our doors, like we were talking about earlier, where you just are surprised in such a wonderful way in which God reimagined things. So like I said, we could deliver REEL and to a group in Kenya that we would never have been able to do before.
Right.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Well, you've also started the Movie Whisperer. Now, is this a podcast or just a video, or what is?
It's a good question. So it's kind of a weird thing that we're trying to figure out what it is right now. It is definitely a documentary. So my son, who is, like I said before, he's kind of following my footsteps. He decided that he was kind of, looking at all the insights I would do each year on the Oscars. So every year I look at the Oscars and what's being nominated. Most people don't think the Oscars are relevant at all. And I look at it as prophetic. I look at these artists as our best that we have, and they make movies to say something, not to make money. And there's this palette, like a top 10 movie list, only it's, the Oscar nominees.
Right.
And so every year I've been looking at it for the last 8 years. I think it's 7 or 8 years. And it's been incredible. I mean, like for example, the year before the pandemic, so this would have been not this past Oscar year, but the year before, right before the pandemic, and the pandemic was not even on our radar.
Right.
The theme that came out of the Oscars that year was, we have to test our devotion to see if we will be our brother and sister's keeper. That was the big theme that came out of that Oscar nominated years. Like all the nominees had that idea of testing your devotion to see if you would be your brother and sister's keeper.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden, I thought it was going to be the election. And then all of a sudden it was the pandemic, and we were testing our devotion against people and money. And then it was race. And then it was the election. It was just a year of testing our devotions to see what we were really devoted to in relationship to people. And so I've seen that happen so many times that then my son, was coming back from England and had heard me that theme and then saw it play out. And he was like, Dad, we need to make a documentary about you and about the Oscars and about, what you do at REEL. And so I said, sure, that's better than me writing a book. So
that's so cool.
So he's been doing that. He's been interviewed about 21 people at this point. We're trying to make it into a series. And it's called The Movie Whisperer. And so that's where we got the title. And then it kind of blurred into, well, when I do interviews with people now, I'm doing it as The Movie Whisperer and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. So cool. Well, so let me ask,
no, go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to ask you, you kind of started the last question, which was tell us about yourself at NYU, but you studied filmmaking there. So before, you must have had some incredible film experiences as far as what led you to want to be a filmmaker, or at least go to film school, and then to where you are now. So talk to us about your earliest, I guess, experiences with movies. You talked about The Sound of Music. But I just would love to hear how you got bit by that bug. Was that just God downloaded that to you? What was that?
Well, you said earlier that you are an editor and you love editing. So it kind of was. So I grew up doing theater. I was doing theater all, during my youth here in Atlanta, different companies. And so I was really an artist at an early age, but I really wasn't able to claim it, because by the time I hit senior year in high school, my dad, who was extremely supportive of my talents, he was like, okay, I want you to have a family. And so maybe you should be a lawyer, and use those acting skills or something like that. And so I don't know, for me, it was very, very difficult because I felt like I needed to be practical at that moment. And so actually I chose film because I felt like it was the next best thing to theater.
Yeah.
And you could kind of make a living. And then I decided to go into editing because I felt like I could learn a skill where I didn't have the money in film school to my parents couldn't give me $15,000 at that time to make a movie. Which is what you needed to do in order to be a director in those film schools.
Right.
And so, I started learning editing, and then I got hired as an editor at Turner. And I had always been dealing with this kind of tension between theater and film. So when I quit Turner, I started a theater company, but then eventually I was like, okay, I'm going to have to go into the film world, to make a true, not a true impact, but more of that sort of big vision, kind of George Bailey. I got to get out of Bedford Falls, got to do something big. So there's always been the tension between theater and film for me, but Reel has kind of been the culmination of that George Bailey-ness of doing something big, but doing something that really impacts a community, and really touches people. So I know probably as artists, you understand that the reason you get in this is because you really want to touch people. You really want to touch people's hearts. You want to ask questions that are penetrating and have them talk about it as they leave the theater, And so that's always been the case for me. And now I don't have to raise money to do that. I don't have to raise money to make a film. I just use the things that people are already loving. And I can do that in such a small, context. And I see the impact of the movie. And from a faith perspective, I always wanted God to be represented in a way that surprised people. I didn't want it to be the usual Bible robes and apocalyptic tales and all that kind of stuff. And so for people to be surprised by how Anchorman touches their lives, only God it's not a far point for me to go, that was God, who did that. Only God could have done that,
Amen.
And so it really is kind of the culmination of what I've been after all my career. And I think, as you're trying to rewind me to the beginning, I think I've always had that tension between, I want to do something big, yet I want to be a part of a process that is in community with others. And so even that Sound of Music, when I was, a teen doing summer stock in Helen, Georgia, here in, in the Alpine oasis in the North Georgia mountains, I got to experience what it felt like to live in community with artists, and we were all kind of putting on a show together and living together. And it was probably the most dreamlike world of, my youth. And so I think I've been chasing after that concept. And Reel, again, has been God kind of blessing me with that. But I would say there's one thing I would note is there was a very defining moment when I had to choose, in which I had a friend of mine say, you know what, we have enough, Christians tend to not be really good at creating. And Hollywood, but there are so many artists out there who are really good at creating. But there's not a lot of people who can interpret, right? It's almost like there's all these great artists who are speaking in tongues, but there's nobody to interpret their tongues. And so my big mission is to tell artists out there and story people, hey, listen, we need more of you to interpret. I know you want to create, but what if God is calling us as a church to be better interpreters than, kind of being real prideful and I've got to create something and I've got to, put something out there that's for God. Well, maybe God needs you to interpret because otherwise people, can't understand how God's a part of something that touches people's lives, like their top 10 movies.
Oh my gosh.
Amazing.
That was awesome. And you said something, and I might be reaching here, but as I've never resonated with another guest before so much in my life, just as far as like theater and then having to.
Oh, y'all's stories are almost the same.
It's I didn't go to NYU, but
but you went to UCLA.
But it just was very interesting that our stories were so similar.
And you were in, Sound of Music.
Yes.
As Brigitte.
Yeah.
Brigitte, you're the troublemaker.
Yes, I was. And it was awesome. So as soon as you said Sound of Music, I was like, oh, we have that. And then you just kept telling your story. And I was like, oh my gosh. So anyway, so I might be reaching here, but there is the community aspect that you're talking about. And what it sounds like I'm hearing you're guests, I'm going to call them guests of REEL Experiences, are having is this kind of theatrical, and I don't mean from a filmmaking perspective, I mean theater, live theater, the reactions, the energy in the room, it's palpable. And sometimes you get that in a movie theater, but there is nothing like live theater, nothing like it. And so I think that it's really cool that what you are doing, it seems to be this really cool conglomerate of the two worlds that you felt, so that's all that tension between filmmaking and loving that medium and the storytelling and editing in its own art form as it is, and screenwriting. But then the way that you get to actually experience with a group of 100 people or however many people are in the theater, how it affects all of you at the same time. You rarely get that in a movie theater, right? So anyway, as you were talking, that's just kind of what spoke to me, and I might be reaching, but it just seems like this really cool marriage of the two things that you love the most in one room, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, I think it's a little more interactive. So the audience gets to talk back to the actors on the stage.
We're doing theater in the round. It's super
yeah,
interactive.
Exactly. But yeah, I think it does combine that idea that you're talking about of theater being something that just feels like you're connecting with your heart is connecting with what's going on stage.
Yeah. Bryan, I just think that what you do is so cool, and I'm absolutely in love with the concept. I mean, we went through it, so I get it, which is, again, really cool that we've actually gotten to experience this. But the fact that you're getting to do this on such a bigger level to so many more people is just really, really cool. So our podcast, for those of you who don't know, is all about talents and gifts and being able to name them. And we've had several guests at this point talk about how kind of awkward it might be to talk about what they're good at or their talents and their gifts. And one thing that we are really, that we just like to encourage you and our listeners and our guests about is that you got to name it. You got to accept the gift from God. You got to name what it is. You got to be grateful for it. You got to give him the glory for it, but then you also got to use it. And so, we are big encouragers of naming your talents and gifts, where you're using them, how you're able to use them, and how you're able to use them in your work or with, in whatever capacity. Or at church. Yeah, we have a lot of people that are involved in their church and they use their talents and gifts there. I edit for my church, so I get that. So things like that. And so I want to encourage you at this moment, Mr. Bryan, to share with us some of your talents and your gifts.
Yeah, I guess I don't have a problem telling them.
He's like, I'm fine. Let's just do it.
Yeah. The reason is because of REEL, and I kind of alluded to them earlier, because I see them in my characters in my top 10 movies. So, I think one of my gifts is I love Maria because how she wants to do a song for the Baroness, or she wants to give a gift to the Baroness, and so she starts to teach the kids how to sing, and so that idea of being able to use my creativity to really give people gifts and do it in a way. I love that she does it outdoors too. Mm-hmm. I'm a big outdoors person, so I love to do things outdoors and see God in nature. So that's one thing, is just, using my creativity in a way to give people gifts. I think, again, to the scene I alluded to earlier of just really being able, someone said recently when we interviewed, my son was interviewing them about me with regard to what I do with the movie whisperer kind of concept. And this lady who doesn't really know me, but the description of me, she said, I think your dad has the right level of objectivity, and yet the right level of kind of leaning in to people. And all of a sudden I got in my head at like a film lens, and I went, oh yeah, I think that is where I'm gifted. I think where I'm gifted is I can go right at the right focal length of between something being personal and really being relational and really kind of getting at a person's heart, yet not too close that they feel like they're in therapy,
right?
And not too close where they start shutting down.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I have the right focal length on the movie too, so that I can relate it to the movie and make sure I'm being authentic to the movie too. So whenever I say, hey, I think, I'm seeing, you be Elle in Legally Blonde, and I also see it over here with this in Grease, and I see how both of these characters are like wanting to are being judged by other people and are, you know, their identity is based on other people's. And then they decide at the end to not be that and find who they are within, you know, their own brand of who they are. And being able to say that at the right focal length, you know, of the movie, where it's true of the movie, and yet also true of this person, this person's heart in a relational way. To me, that's where I feel I'm gifted. Like God gave me that gift of being able to really find that insight that is not generic, where a person goes, "Oh, you could have said that about anybody," and yet not too specific, where they feel threatened or they feel like, you know, I'm pushing in too hard. So that's where I feel like if there was one thing I feel really gifted at, is somewhere being able to deliver insight, especially based on artistry, you know, being able to look and read artistry and be able to interpret it. That's where I feel most alive and feel like I can really give that gift to someone that is out of love. You know, like when I do Reel, the thing that I'm doing is not trying to do a magic trick and not trying to impress people with something. I'm trying to love people, because I know when people give me their top 10 movies, they're giving me their heart. And so to be a good steward over that heart and know that I can love that heart in a big way by showing how their movies like affirm how God sees them, then to me, that's where I feel really gifted, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And your film imagery was beautiful.
Definitely. Well, and it's probably not a spiritual gift, but you have an insane memory for all of these stories and movies and characters.
Oh, I don't know about that. I just see a lot of them a lot. Otherwise, I'm not a good trivia buff. Like, I'm not that movie person who's like, I can name you the director of blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm too old for that now. I just can't remember things that well anymore. But because I see things a lot, you know, where I see these movies over and over again that people bring on their top 10 movie lists, then it just becomes real fresh for me.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it is impressive. So.
Well, and you know, you're talking about having that right balance of being able to lean in, but then also be objective. But there's also a personality aspect. Like, if you didn't have this warm, I mean, it's, you know, it's the Holy Spirit, but if you didn't have this warm, inviting presence, it'd probably be really hard for someone to believe that they are relating to this character because you told them to, or not because you told them to, because you revealed it to them. So I think there's an interpersonal skill as well that's above and beyond what you're doing at REEL Experiences. You're just incredibly approachable and friendly, and so I think that
generous.
And
For
very
saying that.
very
I don't ever
generous.
view myself that way. So thanks for saying that.
Well, no, I don't know. I don't know that I want to give this a specific example, but just today, even like hopping on with you, I immediately was like, "Oh, this is gonna be
this is fun."
This is gonna be fun. Not that it's gonna be easy, but this person is warm, is excited to talk, is generous, and that just comes. I think that again, the Holy Spirit helps with that. But that's also a gift from God, that you have that capability to really put somebody at ease just in the first few seconds of chatting with them. And so anyway, I wanted to name that for you as well, because I felt that today.
Yep, that's awesome.
I appreciate that. That means a lot to me.
Cool. Well, I saw from the little bio that you gave to us that there's so many things we have in common. We'll have to do a whole nother conversation that's not recorded just for us to connect on these things. But you also love Disney World, and I approve of that.
Yes.
You're a Disney. Is it Disneyland? Or, I mean, is it Disney World specifically, or is it all of the parks and all of the magic of it all?
Well, I've only been to Disneyland once, so I grew. I've fell in love with Disney World so much that you just become like, well, that's my
your place.
World, you know?
Yeah.
But I feel like wonder is so much a part of what I do with REEL, where that surprise element has shown me has resurrected a sense of wonder in me. And now when I go to Disney World, I'll tell you the story. We stay we don't ever go, we go on the cheap. So we stay at Fort Wilderness.
Yep.
We camp, we literally are in tents, you know? And so when we talk about Disney World, we're talking about not the Grand Floridian. We're talking about, but I love it. I love Fort Wilderness because it's like still stuck in the 70s. And, you got these little kids riding around on bikes going, I'll see you at the watering hole, and all this kind of stuff, And so for me, it's just really magical. But the cool thing is one day I was just on my cot in the tent, and I was listening, and all of a sudden in the morning, real early in the morning, you hear the boat coming in, and you hear the whistle of the boat coming in, and that boat is there you go out to a dock, and it takes you to the magic kingdom.
Yep.
And I started just seeing it all through spiritual eyes. I was like, oh my gosh, there is a boat that wants to take me to a magic kingdom,
Oh my gosh.
And then I was on the dock, and I was sitting there on the dock getting ready to board the boat. And I was imagining this line that was full of all these people loading in. And I was imagining on the other side of the dock, like what if a boat showed up and it said to God's kingdom, or to, to church or anything like that. Like how many people would be on that boat,
Right.
Yes.
And to me, that is where somehow we've missed God's kingdom, because God's kingdom should be this magic kingdom and should be full of wonder and should be like full of, happiness and surprise around every corner, as like Disney says, And so for me, I just began to look at Disney World as a place where I would go, not to escape the world or not heaven on earth or anything like that, but just a place in which I could go, this is speaking my language. This is the language of metaphor. This is the language of imagery. This is the language of story. And this is where I think God lives. I think God lives in the language of metaphor, imagery, and story. I think
Amen.
Jesus spoke that way. I think Jesus was a metaphor. Obviously he lived, but also he was coming to show us the Father. He was supposed to be a motion picture for us of the Father.
Yes.
And even all the Old Testament stories and all the Old Testament figures, prophets were doing, performance art. Everything was very much metaphor, even the lives of these people in the Old Testament. So to me, there's something about the language of God that's being missed right now. We're so word centric that I think we've lost a sense of God speaking in motion picture. And so when I see all these motion pictures coming to life for people and surprising people with their story, I go, that's God's language. His language is motion picture. And then when I go to Disney World and I'm filled with wonder because I'm on a boat to go to a magic kingdom.
Yeah, I hear you.
And I know that Jesus spoke the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of heaven. It wasn't like he wasn't talking about something like this either,
Right.
So I don't know. For me, Disney World just holds a special place where I see it through a spiritual lens. I go there to worship,
Yes.
which sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy, but I do. I go there and kind of worship a sense of what I think is lost in our world when in association with God, which is a sense of wonder,
That is so beautiful, and I have to go to Disney World right now. I grew up at Disneyland when we don't have a boat. We have California Adventure across the street. So we don't have a boat. I have to go to Disney World right now. That is awesome. No, that was so beautifully spoken. And that wonder piece, it's there, and it's there as an adult, and it's like one of the few places in the world that really can transcend any age.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I am with you on that. I'm buying what you are selling in that whole thing. That was awesome. Yeah. Well, I know you said earlier you weren't necessarily like a movie trivia buff, but we would like to play a little movie quote game with you.
Okay.
If that's all right.
And
I can try.
It's
Yeah.
pretty easy.
It's pretty easy.
My almost 56-year-old brain may not be able to keep up, but I'll try.
Well, let's see how we do. All right.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So the first one, and a little hint here, you can use your little pad that you had to make it all special. But may the force be with you.
Oh well, yeah, of course that is.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. I kind of need to know all of the different ones that you have available.
Yeah, I've got BB-8 will come out, that
my
kind of thing.
gosh.
So
That's awesome.
That
I
is
got
so cool.
Baby Yoda says yes,
So cool. Oh my gosh, your tech is
Yeah,
awesome.
that is very
Well, we had to get really imaginative once we started delivering virtually. So,
Yeah, for
this is
sure.
just a part of it. But yes, Star Wars, obviously.
Star Wars. Nailed it. All right, number 2. Let's go with Show Me the Money.
Ah, yeah, Oh, hold on.
Show me the money.
You got it. Oh my gosh. You have one for it. If you have one for every answer, I'm going to be shocked.
That's funny.
That
Jerry
is
Maguire,
cool.
yes.
Very cool. All right. Yes, correct. Next one. We're going to go with After all, tomorrow is another day.
Oh yes. After all, I don't think I have anything to light up the screen, but yes, I do have that as a 1 second. Hold on. Oh shucks, I'm not gonna be able to pull it up as fast as I want to. But obviously, that is Gone with the Wind.
It
yes.
is. Oh my gosh! But I have to know if you have something like a clip, or is it a sound bite?
So it is the soundbite. Yeah. So I play this game with the soundbite. You
Oh
know.
my gosh,
So
yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
yeah,
That's
I'm trying to
awesome.
think if I've got. I know I have it somewhere, but
Well,
anyway,
it was
go ahead.
it was that or the other line that's more famous that has a bad word in it, which I don't mind saying.
Oh yes.
I don't mind
Yes.
saying in the context of the film and the quote.
Yes.
But we don't know what age our audience is today, so
That's
we
true,
went with
that's
the
true.
other one. All right, next one. We're gonna go with "If you build it, he will come."
Ah yes. So that is Field of Dreams.
Good job.
Yes.
Well done. All right, next up is "A heart is not judged by how much you love, but by how much you are loved by others."
Oh my gosh, that sounds like a lot of movies. Let me
It sure
think.
does. And I was just thinking, there's a much more famous quote from that
Go
movie.
ahead and give the more famous one. I thought it was too easy.
Oh, I
other
probably
one.
would not have gotten it, and I was in that play
You were
as the
lead.
as the
Oh.
yes.
yes.
So the more famous line is, "There's no place like home."
Oh yes. So Wizard of Oz. Yes, for
Yes.
sure. I didn't know that other. Say the other quote again.
A heart. I'm assuming this is when he's awarding the Cowardly Lion, as I'm guessing,
Ah,
is
yes.
the heart. I'm sorry, no, the Tin Man.
Tin Man. Yeah.
Yes,
mhm.
a heart is not judged by. I cannot believe I just messed that up again. In the play, in one of our performances, I called the Scarecrow the Tin Man.
It was cute
It
and
was
funny.
Anyway. It was just was funny that I did that again. A heart is not judged by how much you love, but by how much you are loved by others.
Nice. Yeah, I can see that now. Where the Oz is the wizard is telling him when he gives him the
Yep.
Yes. Well, the other one that
medal
was-
or whatever. Yeah.
The other one that was super easy was something about I don't think we're in Kansas
We're not in Kansas anymore.
Toto or
Yeah,
something.
that's a
Yeah,
good
yeah.
one.
I thought, well, it says Toto, so
All right, we got a couple more. Let's go with "There's no crying in baseball."
Yeah. So that is A League of Their Own.
It is
Yes.
on I think both of our top 10 lists.
Yes.
It's
Nice. Very
yeah,
good. I
that's
like
a good
it.
one. All right, we'll go with "Here's Looking at You, Kid."
Casablanca for
Very
sure.
good. You're crushing this. You're
Yes.
doing very well. All right, we've got three
You're
more.
making me feel like my brain still works, so that's good.
We've got three more, and then a bonus question that I added during this interview. That's gonna be your only clue besides the
Nice. I
quote.
like it.
I added it during the interview. All right, here we go. Next one is "You can't handle the truth."
Yeah. So that is. Oh my gosh, I just blanked on it. Jack Nicholson, Tom Cruise,
Yep.
and it is A Few Good Men.
It is. I was gonna give it to you just because you were able to
Yep.
rattle off who was talking. And all right, next is "You're gonna need a bigger boat."
Yes. So hold on.
I get so excited when he's like, "Hold on, yeah."
yes,
I love it.
that's awesome.
That is really cool. That's a very scary looking shark.
It is very scary.
Good job. All right, and then last one before the bonus is "Mama always said life is like a box of chocolates."
Yeah, definitely. Hold on. I can get
Oh
you
my
that one
gosh.
easily.
This was the right
my
game to
gosh.
play.
Yeah. Look at me. I can't even find it. It's because I can't read with my.
Oh.
I don't even have glasses anymore, or I don't even have glasses, and I'm sitting here going, "This is what my wife is like. You need to get glasses." Well, I'll play this one from it.
Also applicable. That's a great one.
There we go. So Forrest Gump. Yes.
You nailed it. All of them.
Thank you. That was fun.
10 for
liked
10.
it.
And here's your bonus question.
Okay.
It's hard not to be romantic about baseball.
Yes. So that.
I don't know this one.
Hold up. I was going to say that is Field of Dreams again,
It's
but hold on. No.
I'll give you one more clue. It was one of the films that you listed in your top 10 when we asked you about it.
Oh, so Moneyball.
It's one of my
Is that-
favorite quotes.
You're right. So that is when He is with Jonah Hill
And-
in the little edit suite.
And the little edit suite, and he shows him the
Yes.
play, and he gets emotional. He's like, "It's hard not to be romantic about baseball."
Yes,
it's
yes,
a great
yes.
scene, and
You're
it's one
right.
of it's one of
Totally.
my
I can't believe I missed the one on my top 10 list.
Well, and it was like I said, compared to the others, it's a very obscure quote, but it's one of my favorites because I love baseball and I love that movie.
Very cool.
And it's a cool scene. But as soon as you said that, and recently you posted something about the best quotes from baseball movies,
Yes,
and that
I
was
did.
the one that I listed. And so you said that, I was like, I should add that to the quotes just to see.
Good,
So that was
good.
just a fun one. Well,
Yeah, for some reason I saw it coming out of the mouth of the wife in Field of Dreams. I just saw her saying that for some reason, but you're right. It's from my own top 10.
from your own top 10, and it's a good one. I love that movie. It's a
Yep,
great one.
That's awesome. Well, Bryan, we have thoroughly enjoyed chatting with
Yes.
you today. Where can folks reach out and find you?
Yeah, so the easiest thing is realexperiences.com. So the only thing is it's spelled REEL experiences.com. And then everything's there, as far as a way to contact us, as well as, just information about what we do and everything like that. So yeah, that's probably the easiest
Awesome.
way to get to us.
Are you on social media so folks can follow all you're doing?
Yeah, the only problem I have is some of them are Real Experiences digital and some of them are Real Experiences. So I always forget which one is which. So
Okay.
it's like half of us is on Real Experiences, like Twitter and Instagram, and then the other half, like Facebook, is Real Experiences digital. So if you don't find us at Real Experiences, then try Real Experiences digital for some of the social.
Well, we've
This has
thoroughly
been
enjoyed
awesome. This was such a fun conversation. It's about a topic that we love. And again, it was really cool that we actually have been through this process with you, and it
Oh,
was
I
very
know.
cool. So we're
Thank
so
you
grateful for your time.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate just the ability to talk about this. I'm finding that I enjoy talking about it from the standpoint of allowing people to see God in a different way, and that's, if anybody gets blessed from this, hopefully it just opens the idea that God can do things that are way out of the box that we anticipate and think that he can do. So hopefully that'll inspire people. I like to hope that that's the reason God has me doing what I'm doing.
Amen.
Yes, and amen.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Great.
Well, have a great trip. Drive, fly,
Thanks.
safe. Have a great trip, and we'll be in touch soon. And again, we're just so grateful for you and for your time.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
For more information on Project Brickworks and how you can get involved, visit us online at projectbrickworks.org. To subscribe to our newsletter, text BRICK to 55498. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter, like our Facebook page, and if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to hit the subscribe button, give us a like, and turn on notifications. If you're listening to this on a podcast, please subscribe and be encouraging with your rating. We love y'all. Be blessed. And we'll see you next time.